Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening a file that, even after nearly 3 decades, still holds this incredible power to shock and confuse.
It really does.
We are taking a deep dive into the unsolved 1996 murder of 6-year-old beauty queen, JonBenét Ramsey.
In this case, it's more than just a tragic murder. It's almost a clinical study in what happens when wealth, a media frenzy, and frankly, gross investigative errors all collide.
Collide and create this paralyzing mystery.
It really set the benchmark for all the big, controversial true crime cases that came after it.
So our mission today is to give you a shortcut. We want to cut through all the sensationalism and just give you the core facts.
The timeline, the evidence.
Exactly. The sequence of events, the two major competing theories, the intruder versus the family, and why the same pieces of evidence have been pulled apart in such drastically different ways for almost 30 years.
So to set the stage, you have to understand the family and where they were. JonBenét was born in Atlanta, but the Ramseys were living in Boulder, Colorado.
Which is not a place you typically associate with this kind of crime.
Not at all. And they lived in this enormous home, a 7,000-plus square foot Tudor-style house. The parents were prominent figures.
Right, John Ramsey was a very successful businessman, an executive at a multi-billion-dollar company.
And his wife, Patsy Ramsey, was a former Miss West Virginia. They also had an older son, Burke, who was 9 at the time.
And JonBenét herself, she was already a public figure in her own way.
She was winning titles like Little Miss Colorado and Little Miss National Beauty.
And we can't just gloss over that detail, the child beauty pageants, because it immediately became the lens through which everyone, especially the media, started judging this family.
It absolutely did. And it's such a critical piece of the puzzle here. The photos that just flooded the news, the ones, JonBenét in full makeup, styled hair, these very adult-looking outfits.
They're instantly controversial.
Deeply. Yeah. They made a lot of people very uncomfortable.
So even before the real facts of the crime were known, the public conversation wasn't just who did this. It was also what kind of parents are these?
Exactly. It set the stage for this intense scrutiny that was focused squarely on their lifestyle, on their wealth.
It created this narrative of, decadence or distance that the public just latched onto, really, before the first piece of evidence was even analyzed.
And that bias became a huge, immovable object in the investigation from day one.
Okay, so let's move to the critical moment. It's Christmas night, 1996. The family had been at a Christmas party.
Right. They get home late, around 9 or 10 p.m.
And the story from the parents is that JonBenét was asleep in the car, and her father, John, carried her straight to her bed.
And according to them, that's the last time they saw her alive.
Then the timeline just...
It
shatters. The next morning, December 26th, at 5:02 a.m.
That's when Patsy Ramsey calls 911. She's hysterical on the phone, saying JonBenét is gone.
And she says she found a ransom note on the stairs. This is where the case immediately takes a bizarre turn.
Because this wasn't some quickly scribbled note. I mean, it was incredibly long.
2.5 pages long.
Yeah, the note itself is one of the strangest pieces of evidence in modern criminal history. It was written on a pad from inside the house with a pen from inside the house.
And the demand for money, that was also very, very specific.
It was for $118,000.
Wait, hold on. The note claimed to be from a small foreign faction. Why would a foreign faction ask for such a weirdly precise amount? Not $1 million, not a round number?
That's the huge contradiction, and it immediately told investigators this was personal.
How so?
$118,000 was the exact amount of John Ramsey's annual bonus from his company that year.
Wow. Okay, so the writer knew their finances intimately.
Or had done a lot of research, and the sign-off was just as strange. SBTC.
Which people think means submit to Christ or just.
Victory. It just added to this feeling that the whole thing was staged and a theatrical, not a real kidnapping.
So that one detail, the $118,000, that must have been the moment investigators thought, okay, this is not some random crime.
Absolutely. But the real tragedy, I think, started the second the police walked through the door.
The investigative catastrophe.
Precisely. It's the failure that still haunts this case. The police arrived and they didn't secure the house as a crime scene.
Right.
They assumed it was a kidnapping. They thought the girl was gone, so they treated it like a missing persons case, not a potential homicide.
And the result of that assumption?
Devastating. Friends, neighbors, even their pastor were allowed to just walk freely through the house.
Oh, no.
They were wiping down counters, making coffee, touching things, destroying potential fingerprints, fibers, footprints, just an absolute disaster from an evidence standpoint.
So for hours, The house is full of people, everyone assuming JonBenét has been taken somewhere else.
Exactly. It wasn't until around 1 p.m. that day, December 26th, that she was actually found.
And it was John Ramsey himself who found her.
Yes. Him and his friend, Fleet White. A detective suggested they do one more search of the house from top to bottom.
And they find her in the basement.
Yeah, not just in the basement, but in this small hidden storage room inside the wine cellar. She was covered with a white blanket.
Which again suggests staging, right? Hiding the body.
Absolutely, and the forensic details, I mean, they speak to a really shocking level of violence.
So her mouth was sealed with duct tape.
Yes. Her hands were tied over her head, and the weapon used to kill her was right there with her.
Not a professional tool or anything like that.
No, it was a grout, improvised on the spot. It was a cord tied around her neck, tightened with a broken piece of a paintbrush handle.
And the paintbrush belonged to Patsy.
It belonged to Patsy Ramsey. It came from her art supplies in the house. That one detail made the foreign faction story almost impossible for police to believe.
And the official cause of death.
Asphyxiation from the grout, combined with the massive blow to the head. She had an 8-inch skull fracture.
And the autopsy also confirmed she'd been sexually assaulted.
Yes. So the sheer brutality and the fact that the weapon was made from items inside the home, it immediately pulled the investigation's focus directly onto the Ramseys.
So we've got the bizarre note, the contaminated scene, and the body hidden in the basement. Let's talk about the food evidence.
The pineapple.
The pineapple clue. Because this is arguably the biggest factual contradiction in the parents' timeline.
It is, and it's so confusing. The autopsy found undigested pineapple in JonBenét's stomach.
Meaning she ate it very shortly before she died.
Within an hour or two, most likely.
So why is that so important?
Because, remember, the parents claimed she was fast asleep when they got home, that she was carried straight from the car to her bed if she was eating pineapple.
She was awake.
She was awake, she was in the kitchen, and she was with someone after they got home from that party.
And where did the pineapple come from?
There was a bowl of pineapple on the kitchen table, and on that bowl were Burke Ramsey's fingerprints.
Her 9-year-old brother.
Yes. And that became the basis for one of the most controversial theories later on, that maybe an argument happened between the siblings over that snack. It just proved that the initial timeline given by the parents couldn't be true.
Okay, now we have to get into the evidence that just splits this case right down the middle. The stuff that points to an intruder versus the things that point to someone inside the family.
Right. Let's start with the pro-intruder evidence, because this is what the family has always focused on.
And it's powerful.
It's very powerful. Most importantly, there was unknown male DNA found on JonBenét's underwear and her pants.
And this DNA did not match John. It didn't match Burke.
It didn't match anyone in the Ramsey family. This is the absolute bedrock of the intruder theory.
And there was more than just the DNA, right?
Yes. Investigators also found a shoe print in the basement from a high-tech brand boot.
Something the family didn't own.
Correct. Plus some unknown footprints and fibers that they couldn't trace back to the family. So for the Ramseys, all of this, the DNA, the print, it's definitive proof that a stranger broke in.
But then you pivot to the insider evidence. The clues that made police so suspicious of staging right away.
We already mentioned the grout made from Patsy's paintbrush and the note written on their own stationery. And look, handwriting analysis is a very disputed science, but some early analysis suggested a possible resemblance between Patsy's handwriting and the note.
And just the logic of it. Why would a kidnapper spend 20 minutes writing a long note inside the house where the victim still is?
It makes no sense. It looks much more like a frantic attempt to create a story after something terrible happened.
So this clash, you have hard DNA pointing to an unknown male versus all this circumstantial evidence pointing inside the house, it created an impossible puzzle.
And you can't ignore how the social context just poured fuel on that fire. The media's obsession with their wealth, with the pageants, it was all weaponized.
The narrative was set.
It was, and it created this public perception that was really hard to shake no matter what the evidence said.
Okay, so with all these conflicting clues, let's lay out the two core theories that have defined this case. Theory 1, the intruder.
This is the theory the Ramsey family and their supporters have always held. It suggests a stranger got into the house, maybe through a broken basement window.
The one with the suitcase under it.
Exactly, maybe used as a step. And this person either planned to kidnap JonBenét and panicked, or was a stalker who committed the crime and then wrote that bizarre note to throw police off the trail.
And this whole theory really hinges on that unknown DNA.
It does. John Ramsey has, for years, pushed for more advanced DNA testing, like genetic genealogy. He believes that's the only way to finally put a name to that DNA profile. For them, that's the killer's signature.
Okay, then we have theory two, which was the police's initial focus, family involvement. The idea that the kidnapping was a hoax to cover something up.
Right, and this is a complicated one because it has a few different versions. The initial police suspicion was that the parents staged everything.
But then another theory emerged, one involving the brother, Burke.
Yes, this was suggested in a 2016 CBS documentary, and it's highly controversial. The theory was that the death was accidental.
They speculated that Burke might have hit JonBenét, maybe during that fight over the pineapple, and that the parents then created this elaborate cover-up to protect their son.
And it's really important to state that Burke Ramsey successfully sued CBS over those claims.
Right.
But the core idea for investigators in that camp was that this was a chaotic, spontaneous event that the parents then tried to frame as a pre-planned outside attack.
And legally, this case has been a complete mess. In 1999, a grand jury actually voted to indict John and Patsy.
That's a huge point. A grand jury felt there was enough probable cause to charge them with child abuse leading to death.
But the district attorney refused to prosecute.
He did. He said there wasn't enough evidence to get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt, which just highlights how contradictory all the evidence really was.
Then, tragically, Patsy Ramsey died of ovarian cancer in 2006.
And then, just 2 years later, in 2008, the legal ground shifted completely.
The family was formally cleared.
Yes, based on what's called touch DNA. Advances in forensics allow them to test tiny trace amounts of DNA on the clothing. They confirmed the unknown male DNA profile and formally exonerated the entire Ramsey family. The DA at the time even wrote them a letter of apology.
So where does that leave things now in 2024, 2025? Is the case just cold?
No, not at all. It's still officially open. John Ramsey, who's in his 80s now, is still pushing relentlessly for answers.
And there was some news recently, right?
There was. In late 2024 and into 2025, Boulder police reported they were making progress using new DNA testing capabilities. They're almost certainly running that unknown male DNA through modern genetic genealogy databases.
The same technology that's been solving so many other cold cases.
Exactly.
You know, it's incredible that after almost 30 years, everyone still knows this case, the books, the documentaries. What does that cultural obsession tell us?
I think it highlights these deep issues that go way beyond this one family. It shows, the inadequacy of police work back in 1996, the unbelievable power of a media frenzy, and this complex tragedy of the whole child pageant world. It was America's first truly modern, messy, televised, true crime spectacle.
So to bring this back for you, the listener, the whole mystery is still rooted in those two competing stories told by the evidence.
Was it an unknown attacker who left behind his DNA and a shoe print?
Or was it a frantic family cover-up, leaving behind clues like the pineapple, the garrote, and that incredibly bizarre ransom note?
For a lot of people in the 90s, this case just symbolized a profound loss of innocence. This little girl with this huge smile became the face of this dark, unsolvable mystery.
And that raises one last question for you to think about. Despite the family being formally cleared by touch DNA back in 2008, everyone, the investigators and John Ramsey, is still pushing for this advanced genetic genealogy testing.
Right. So if the DNA already cleared the family, what fundamental piece of information do investigators believe this new, more sensitive technology could possibly expose about that unknown male profile that might finally be the thing that breaks this case wide open?